Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only Tiana here once again, and I am back for the likes of the Maxi Toys videos once again. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more Let's Play of Kirby's Dream Collection while we playing through new challenge stages for the Nintendo Wii, which is only exclusive for not only in Japan, but also in North America as well. So, yeah, last time we have essentially managed able to fully complete it. Level 1, which appears to be Happiness Hall, and on top of that, with level 2, with the forms of Apricot Alterum, I think is what it says anyway. So, yeah, today for this video is that this is going to be the finale in terms of the forms of Kirby's Dream Collection by the forms of the new challenge stages mode. So because of that, here we are on to the third and the final level in the game, which appears to be Lost Land. So, and I think, to begin with, let's go and get started with the forms of the next challenge, which appears to be the normal challenge. So, I think this is basically kind of like the equivalent to the forms of item challenge from the likes of in Kirby's Return to Dreamland, except, no matter what though, it's about the fact that at least you don't need to worry about just trying to able to keep a hold of your key at all times, and especially noticeable with the forms of trying to utilize several items, like for instance with the balloon bombs, and you probably need the rest of it though. So even then, and also we can able to actually bump into the most coolest copy ability in the entire mode, which we'll probably get into that at some point once we finish this entire stage first. Before we get into the actual discussion on this, is that, well, today's date of course is the 21st of December today, in some cases in 2023 today, only roughly about 10 more days to go until we made our way to the final day of 2023, and on top of that, we've only just got about 11 days to go for now until we move on to 2024. So, yeah, it feels like we're actually getting pretty close up to this point, and on top of that, we've only just got about 4 more days to go until Christmas is approaching, for the sake of the forms of 2023 anyway, so I'm really looking forward to see what's to be expected when it comes to the forms of the final wrap-up, or the final impression for the sake of the forms of 2023 as a result. But then again though, it's probably best if we let Maxi were able to mention more about it until he decides to able to tackle through the final Let's Play during the course of in 2023 as a matter of fact. So, yeah, with that being said though, it's about the fact that we should probably able to actually get into the last few bits of news to discuss. Well, actually, gotta think about it, we actually stumbled across into this familiar Hell room as far as this is concerned, so we can able to grab some more coins and what have you. So yeah, not much else to say about this for the most part, like most any other Kirby games up to this point. So even then though, let's just go ahead and continue things along around here. So anyways, there's some ton of stuff I would like to able to mention for you guys while this is actually happening. Is that, potentially speaking though, is that another one of those Sonic fan-made games called Sonic Drift 16-bit is actually now being a public release. Well, to be more specifically, the demo version already exists, and let me tell you, it looks so much more better than the forms of how it does on the Game Gear original counterparts. Mainly because, no matter what though, the visual style looks very similar to the forms of how it does it on Sonic Triple Trouble 16-bit ever since in last year in 2022. So even then though, we can probably expect to save that particular topic for later, because here we have ourselves the familiar copy ability ever since in Kirby and the Amazing Mirror, and that's what it have to be by the forms of the Smash copy ability, which that means is that you might be familiar with that particular Smash logo right there, at least if you ever played both Super Smash Bros. For the Nintendo 64, along with Super Smash Bros. Melee and Super Smash Bros. Brawl during that time. Basically, you can able to actually pull off certain familiar movesets from the Super Smash Bros. Games. So, ranging from Hammer, Cutter, alongside with the forms of Stone, and also with aerial attacks. So, usually it's a pretty cool ability, and I'm very glad able to actually just to show you the forms of this particular familiar Smash copy ability once again, ever since in Kirby and the Amazing Mirror. So, and that was before when Kirby Planet Robobot also utilizes that particular copy ability in one of those rare scenarios, as far as I'm aware. So, yeah, it seems pretty cool though, and it looks like we're about able to come across into yet another combat chamber, at least ever since during the forms have been level 2, so we can pretty much expect it might be self-explanatory for the most part, until, if we manage able to face off against with, Megalore for the race number 3, we can pretty much expect the fact that there might be some post-game content for the sake of the forms of new challenge stages, as a matter of fact. So, but then again though, we'll probably should able to actually get around into that as soon as we're able to actually just to keep on beating up some more enemies, and in addition to that, some rank up some more points and what have you, and yeah, that's all I can really say about it. Although, there was one thing I actually totally forgot to mention about this, is that apparently though, that I've already mentioned about the fact that there's also the Platinum Trophy, but there's also the 5th trophy you can able to obtain, which appears to be Body Forms of the King Trophy, and in order to do that, is that I'm pretty sure you need to be Perfection, or to be more specifically, you need to get every single Platinum medals in the entire mode, and on top of that, you need to be able to achieve the Platinum medals for the sake of the forms of every single stages, including the Megalore races, so, which, unfortunately though, for the sake of this run anyway, I don't think it's possible we can able to actually do this, mainly because if you couldn't tell, that we keep on getting hit by several of enemies, along with, obstacles most of the time, which is especially noticeable during the forms of that particular point where sometimes I wasn't paying attention to the forms of that specific parts worth noting for the sake of convenience as far as I'm aware, so. But anyway, regardless of everything else though, is about the fact that at the very least is that Sonic Drift 16-bit fan-made game is now going to be a thing, but it's more accurately like a demo as a matter of fact currently. Although, there's also another thing I should word classify for mentioning about this, is that Soar 11, you know what the next Soul movie is going to be on the horizon, it's going to be, apparently it's going to be confirmed to be released until sometime in September next year. So, yeah, it seems after the events of Soul 10 has already been released during that period. But even though it seems kind of weird able to actually release so many of those sequels of Soul movies. So, anyway though, but let's get into the forms of the most exciting aspect in regards to the forms of several things to come, especially noticeable during the course of 2024, as a matter of fact, is that yes, we actually get ourselves a full confirmation for the sake of the forms of how the fact that Kung Fu Panda 4 has now eventually became reality. So because of that, and for what I've seen a trailer, it looks super amazing, especially concerning for the fact that it's been like, you know, quite a few years ago since we've last got the Kung Fu Panda film, since the 3rd one came out, since in 2016, so it's expecting to be believed it's likely taking place like, well, I don't know about you, because it's been a very long while since I actually have last mentioned something related to Kung Fu Panda and what have you. So, anyway, before we get into that though, as you can tell, we've now managed able to actually access to every single Kirby abilities during the course of in a new challenge stages mode. And here we go on to Megalore race number 3. And this is where things gets a little bit more trickier. But I will try my best if I was trying to able to go for the gold medal run, but we shall see what happens in due time, especially concerning for the fact that, again, if you really want to get the platinum medal, you need to be absolutely perfect on this, especially because you don't want to let Megalore obtain those specific coins, because otherwise, if he does that, then there's no chance for you to able to actually get the, you know, the platinum medals for the sake of time, so. Anyways though, and as far as I'm aware, yes, the Kung Fu Panda 4 is confirmed to be released at some point on the 8th of March next year, so that's going to be on Friday, presumably speaking, so still I'm pretty hyped for it though, and for what I've heard anyway, is that with that particular Kung Fu Panda 4 trailer debuted, actually did made it its way to 142 million views onto its debut day, like, outperformed not only the Super Mario Bros. Movie, but say applies with Minions 2 and Sing 2. So, yeah, quite a lot of films that's been overtaken by that point for the sake of the forms of the views count. So, yeah, it's quite impressive, all things considered, especially it's been, you know, 8 years ago since the previous film, in terms of Kung Fu Panda film series, as far as I'm aware, Although, before I get to more details onto this though, is that as you can tell, since we've beaten Megalord for the 3rd time, and because of that, once you've beaten the 3rd race, this pretty much leads us to the staff credits, where, kind of think about it, all it shows is basically where Kirby is actually going to go onto the left instead of right. So as a result, it pretty much leads us to the staff credits. And what I thought was pretty cool to me though, is that I'm pretty sure the ending portion of this credit sequence does remind me of something as a very similar manner, for the sake of the forms of how the fact that, well, despite the fact that it's been about 2 days ago since I actually have last played this, so I apologize for my commentary because it's a little bit slightly iffy at this point, but kind of thinking about it, what I meant to say is that this credit sequence does remind me of something related to Mario Party 9, staff credit sequence, where basically the main playable character, Kirby, is going to go onto its autopilot mode, and basically though is about the fact that rather than going all the way to the right, unlike Mario in Mario Party 9, so instead we're going to be going onto the left, and then once we made our way towards the end of this particular staff credit sequence, then everyone else is about to gather around, celebrating Kirby's 20th anniversary during that time, during the course of in 2012, even though it's a shame that the European countries never seemed able to receive this particular compilation, which I'm not exactly sure why that's the case, but regardless of everything else though, is about the fact that, I will admit though, I actually really do enjoy the forms of the new challenge stages mode, as a matter of fact, during the course of in Kirby's Dream Collection, so, but I digress. So there's also another thing I should want to classify for mentioning about this, is that, yeah, apparently though, I believe there won't be any answers for the sake of the forms of Zelda Maker, because it did say that, nope, I don't think that Zelda Maker is most likely not gonna happen, mainly because, well, I just got no words to say about that, but I'm sure enough though, at least everyone else tried to able to actually speculate it for that, so even then, no, I guess that's something, so, but anyway though, yeah, let's get to the forms of that particular topic as I just already mentioned about. During the course of the forms of in 2 days ago, yeah, it's a bit of a bummer that the rest of E3 stuff is now no longer continuing, and especially noticeable, it's bad enough that the E3 stuff is dead now, so this means about the fact that everyone else do really miss. For what I've heard, when it comes to the forms of 4 categories, for the sake of the forms of how the fact that which one of those things that everyone else do miss about during the course of the entire E3 announcements during that time? Well, apparently though, a lot of people seem to really do miss the new game announcements a lot more than the forms of how it does it during the course of an EA talking about Medum for 3 hours. Like, seriously, that was the most embarrassing thing back then. So, but even then, no, that's all I can really think about this when it comes to the forms of what specific aspect I do really miss, for the sake of the forms of the absence of E3 in the future years to come. So, yeah, it looks like everyone else is gathered around, and it looks like Kirby, he's the only one he can able to stand on this podium, and kind of think about it, it does kind of reminds me of the good old flashbacks for the sake of the forms of Kirby's Dream Land a little bit, except, well, obviously with the different graphics, and on top of that, it's all full color, so, and I'll admit though, that's a nice way to end things off during the course of the new challenge stages. But, as I mentioned this earlier, is that once you finish up this entire Megalord race number 3, there are some post-game content. To be more specifically, the EX versions of not only the Smash Combat Chamber, but also with the forms of, technically speaking, the final Megalord race. So, now I will save the Megalord race for last, so either way, let's go and get started with the forms of Smash Combat Chamber EX, and as you can tell, we've somehow achieved the gold trophy, so that should be pretty much swell for the most part. But even then, let's go and get into the forms of, without doubt, the hardest 2 stages we're going to be able to go into. So, and what makes this particular stage is a bit difficult though, well, to be more accurate though, when it comes to the forms of the Smash Combat Chamber, is that you need to rush this, because otherwise, if you're taking a bit too long, otherwise the time will run out ridiculously fast. So, yeah, that's one thing to put it, so, but I digress. So yeah, it's really kind of sucks that E3 is no longer going to be continuing, as I said before. But they did say with the forms of this particular special message in the end, saying about the fact that after more than 2 decades of E3, each one bigger than the last, the time has come to say goodbye. Thanks for the memories. And it did say GGWP, which actually stands for Good Gaming, Well Played, I think is what it says anyway. So, at least if I do somehow manage able to get this particular translation correct. So, anyways, back into that particular topic, where it comes to the forms of Kung Fu Panda 4 is now happening. I will say though, the trailer looks hyped, especially because not only does it bring ourselves Blackjack once again voicing Po once again, but also, get this, is that Tai Lung actually makes his return after the events of the first film or something like that. So, and the reason being for this is because there was actually a new villain that's going to be introduced during the course of Kung Fu Panda 4 called Chameleon. So, and I believe what the Chameleon can do, well, obviously he's going to be a sorceress, and because of that though, I think what the Chameleon can do is that he can able to have the ability to become, or he does have the ability to able to have shapeshift, which allows you to able to turn into any creature that almost looks like a lookalike. So, but even then though, I'm still very curious to know of how that film's going to play out to be, and I am super excited with the films of Kung Fu Panda 4 anyway, and because of that though, I am immediately hyped for it. So, oh, and on top of all that stuff though, is about the fact that it looks like that during the course of the past few days ago, ever since during the forms of that particular point where, if you couldn't tell already, this actually marks the debut for the sake of the fact that, well, before getting to the forms of that particular anniversary thing coming up, it looks like, as it turns out, also during the forms of next year, potentially, that both Sonic Adventure DX, along with Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, are about to be hitting over to stream, or to be more specifically Steam, as in a Japanese version until next year in 2024. So yeah, better late than never I suppose, especially despite the fact that those games have already been released in the English versions in a very, very long time ago. At least in ever since during the course of 2013 some time ago, or maybe like lesser than that. Well, mind you, it's been a very long while since I actually mentioned something news related, because obviously if you couldn't tell, that recently we've already managed able to done one of those parts in particular for the sake of our DVD collection so far, and it looks like it's actually ridiculously lengthy as it goes by. So, anyways, let's go ahead and dang it. Okay. I just need to able to finish them off as quickly as possible, because otherwise, again, if I'm too slow on this part, then obviously I'll just let the time run out, and obviously I have to start all over again. So yeah, this stage is pretty lengthy, I'm not gonna lie. But regardless of such though, we actually got enough points as it is, and I get the horrible feeling I might able to only get the bronze on this run, so, but at least I did try. So, but even then though, yeah, I don't think we can probably able to expect to get a silver medal or anything else like that either, because it actually requires the ridiculous amount of points, especially considering you need to able to get those extra bonuses as well, but at least I did try. So, anyway, let's get into the forms of the true final stage, and during the course of the new challenge stages mode, that's of course Megalore Race EX, and this is going to be pretty tough though, especially concerning for the fact that it's extra counterparts of that particular familiar Megalore race, so I'm sure we're able to actually still able to utilize the Smash Copy ability, because I will say that the Smash Copy ability is awesome in my opinion. I mean, it does take me for quite a while to able to try to get used to with the movesets, especially concerning for the fact that obviously I'm still utilizing the Wii mode sideways formation, so although I would have liked able to utilize the GameCube controller to make things a little bit easier, but I just can't be bothered with it, so. But with that being said though, it's about the fact that there is one last thing I want to mention. Well, better late than never I suppose, I guess, is that, well, happy 40th anniversary of one of those Disney classic retelling story from Charles Dickens' story. That's what appears to be Mickey's Christmas Carol. So yeah, it's been 40 years ago since in 1983, At least for what I've heard anyway. So, and for what I've heard, it's actually really dang good adaptation to the films of Charles Dickens' Christmas Tale for the sake of the films of, well, A Christmas Carol. So, yeah, kudos to that, especially considering for the fact that obviously Jiminy Cricket was actually still popular during that time after the release of Pinocchio and stuff like that. So, but yeah, everything else will be pretty much accounted for. Oh, and there's technically one more thing I'll actually kind of think about it. There's actually the last two things I want to mention. The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered is actually going to be coming on PlayStation 5 until next month. Although, unfortunately though, The Last of Us Online is cancelled. So, not exactly sure why that's been cancelled to begin with, but I'm sure that you probably already knows by this point. So, and there we go guys, all these stages are completely done for the sake of the forms of the new challenge stages department. And for my thoughts of the new challenge stages as a result, they're pretty fun though, especially considering for the fact that, like I said before, think of like DLC for the sake of the forms of Kirby's Return to Dreamland on the Wii version, even though it's kind of a shame that the Switch version never gets this particular treatment after all. But regardless of such though, there is one more thing I would like to show off, and that's what appears to be the training room, where basically though you can able to simply practice the forms of that particular copy ability you want to learn. So yeah, it's relatively the exactly the same training room as we remembered from the likes of in Kirby's Return to Dreamland. And I'm gonna say, at the end of the day, I can still able to recommend Kirby's Dream Collection for the Nintendo Wii as a result. Well, again, it's kind of unfortunate for the fact that it's only existent in Japan and North America, whilst in the UK countries though, they never saw light of day of this, unless if you're trying to utilize the ROM hacking this system onto your Nintendo Wii, but that's besides the point. So thank you guys so much for watching of our Let's Play of Kirby's Dream Collection for the sake of the forms of the challenge stages mode anyway. So this is me, Tiana, from the likes of the Mexi Toys, and until then, we'll promise you guys we'll get around onto Kirby Star Allies, and during at some point during the forms of it next year, at least depending on what's going to be up next with Kirby in the future. So for now, I will see you guys and join at some point soon. Bye!